You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 41. Today, we're going to explore what I think are probably three of the biggest ways that your business, your practice, is going to challenge you, possibly even to force you, if I can say that, to grow. Y'all, whether you are ready for it or not. Yeah, we're going to talk about what that means, what it looks like, and why it matters. And if you'll stick around to the end, I'll share a couple of journal prompts I have in mind that I think will invite you to take this a little deeper. I think you're going to love it. And I bet you money you're going to recognize yourself in at least one, if not all three of these. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey folks, this is Wendy Pitts-Reeves. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. So how you guys doing? What's happening out there in the world today? How's life? How are you? How's the practice? I have to share something with you. I was thinking about recording this and thinking, I got to tell you about something that happened in the last few days that was sort of an aha that I had. I am part of a mastermind, and I might do an episode sometime on what a mastermind actually is. If you're not familiar with that, let me know, and if that's something you'd like to hear more about, for sure. But I'm part of a mastermind, a group of, there are 10 of us, all entrepreneurs, all really good friends. In this particular case, we are all female, all women friends, scattered around the country. And we come together online about once a quarter for a day and a half to talk about business, to encourage each other, support each other, challenge each other, hold each other accountable, all those kinds of things. And we had our first quarter mastermind last week. And in the middle of this event, one of my dear friends said, in fact, Janet, many of you will recognize Janet Feld. She was one of the first interviews I did here on the podcast, and that has been one of our most popular episodes. So make sure you listen to that if you haven't. Janet was talking about a series of exercises that she's doing to maintain and enjoy a healthy relationship with abundance and with money. And one of the things she mentioned was just the simple act of checking your bank balance on a regular basis, checking all of your accounts, making sure that you know kind of where everything stands, which I do. And that part that didn't strike me. What struck me was she said, not only do you need to check your accounts on a daily basis and know where you stand, but you also need to say a prayer of gratitude for those accounts and for what they show, no matter what they show, no matter how much or how little is there, to take a moment to be grateful for what's there. Because, of course, when you tell the universe, this is awesome, thank you so much for this, and yes, of course, I'm open to more, that would be lovely too, that automatically sort of shifts the energy around that. Well, when she said that, I thought, oh, I need to be doing that. Because one of the first things I do every morning is wake up and check not wake up and check, but part of my morning routine is checking in with my money, checking in with that relationship to make sure that it stays solid and healthy. But I haven't been saying that moment or even taking a moment to feel or be aware of a sense of gratitude for those accounts, regardless of how I feel about how they're doing, right? Well, I thought about that today because the first thing I had to do this morning was take my car in to buy a couple of new tires. I went in to get some air a few weeks ago. There's a local store here in town that I think is part of a chain. They're not sponsors, of course, but it's a local chain called Discount Tire. And in my particular area, They are phenomenal. They're just phenomenal. I can't say enough good about them. Every time I've ever gone there, I've had a great experience. Well, I went there a few weeks ago to get some air put in one of my tires, and as the guy was checking them, he said, your tires are okay, but 2 of them are past the point where you really kind of need to get them replaced. And he showed me how they figured that out, what the levels are, how far along it was, and I couldn't really argue with that. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I can see that. Okay. Guess I'm going to buy 2 new tires. So I went in today to do that. I had an appointment, went in first thing, walked in the door, ready to buy 2 new tires. And, by the way, with a good attitude, because I like having good tires. I like to drive. I like to drive on good tires. So I was fine with that. I don't really like buying 2 at a time, but this is a car I bought from someone else, and I didn't put these tires on there. So I don't actually know or even remember why they're at 2 different places, but they were. So that's okay. My intention was to buy 2 today and come back in a few months because the other 2 still had a little life left on them. Well, when they took the car in to do the work, the guy came back to me and said, I need to show you something. And in the driving I've done since I checked these a while back, those other 2 tires had dropped not down nearly as far as the others, but to enough where they probably needed to be checked as well, or probably needed to be replaced as well. Long story short, he showed me a couple of options that I couldn't argue with. There were lots of good reasons to do what he was suggesting that I do. And before it was all said and done, I bought 4 new tires. So I spent a chunk more today than I had planned to spend. Here's the important part of this ridiculously long story. I have a choice about how I can think about that. I can think about it from, dang, I kind of liked having that money in my account. I wasn't really planning on that today. Or, thank heavens, when the time came to take care of this important part of my home, my life, my car, my well-being, my safety, I not only had the wherewithal to go get it taken care of, I had good advice, I had a recognition that I needed to do it, but I also had the funds to take care of it. And even if I hadn't really planned on that today, that's okay. I'm grateful because that story could have had a very different ending. And as we say here in the South, thank you, Lord. So that's where I'm at today. And I wanted to share that with you today because I am practicing gratitude and I'm going to own that. I'm going to just feel that and be glad that's how it worked out. So let's talk about how your practice forces you to grow. So did you listen to last week? Did you listen to episode 40 where I introduced you to the concept of the 7 pillars of an ideal practice? That's my personal framework. That is my foundation. That's the way I think about a good practice. And as you hear what I'm going to share with you today, I bet you're going to notice how this all fits into that framework because it does. All of these are the things that I see clients struggling with all the time, over and over and over. And in some ways, I have struggled with some of them too. Not all of them quite as much, but in some I have. I'll explain that in a minute. But mostly because these come up so often, because I see this as such a core part of your transition, your growth to becoming a healthier, happier, more effective and more profitable business owner. I think it's important to talk about this. I talk about it with my clients like all the dang time. So I'm thinking, let's talk about it here on the podcast because I betcha, need this too. All right. So the first way that your practice is going to challenge you to grow is not necessarily what you're expecting. And that is in that you must be willing to be seen. Willing to be seen. In the 7 pillars, this comes under pillar number 6, which is about promotion or marketing, but it's so much more than that. But just to keeping it there, willing to be seen as in being willing to send out an email campaign to potential referral sources, being willing to call a colleague and invite them to meet for coffee to learn more about their practice and tell them more about yours. Being willing to say yes to a speaking opportunity, being willing to post on social media that you've got a few openings or that you love working with this particular situation or that you're excited about your brand new or thriving private practice, right? all of that. Ultimately, being willing to be seen means asking for the business. It means, y'all, asking for the business. Not only am I here, not only am I good at this, not only is this what I do, but please, if you know of someone that could benefit from this service, please send them my way. This is one of the first things, honestly, that I see practice owners run into because, and I know that you guys are going to get this, because we don't want to brag. It feels like bragging if we say, hey, I'm good at this. I'm awesome at this. I got room. You should come see me. We don't want to make it look like it's all about us because it's not. It never has been, is it? Now, I will tell you, here's just one little side note here. I'll just tell you what I tell my people, which is, it ain't bragging if it's true. It ain't bragging if it's true, y'all. But because we are so uncomfortable at owning our value, owning our authority, putting ourselves out there and saying, here I am, here's how I can help. And yes, by all means, I would love it if you would send people my way. We are so uncomfortable with that we hide behind our computer and we just hope that somehow magically the right clients, those we like, those we can help, and those who can pay us magically find us. It's just going to happen. But here's the thing, y'all. You can't help your clients. You can't have an impact if they don't know who you are, if they don't understand what you do, if they don't get that you have a ridiculous amount of training and experience, if they don't know how to find you or how to reach you. And not just your perfect, beautiful, lovely clients who need you, but also referral sources, your colleagues, allied professionals, other people in your community, other people in your world, other people in your network who, by golly, would love to send people your way if they just had an idea about what you needed, what you wanted, what you were looking for, what you're good at. I had an aha about this I have to share with you of my own this week that was kind of interesting. We are talking about asking for the business. Now, you'd think at this point in my life, I wouldn't have any trouble with that. And in many ways, I don't. I know that I'm a good coach. I know that I have a lot to offer. I know I'm a good therapist. So I don't actually have problems with that in a general sense. But I did have an aha this week about this. I used to have a problem back in the day around getting speaking gigs. I love to speak. I love connecting with an audience. I love having an opportunity to inspire people. And I don't care how many people in the room. I don't care if it's 10 people, if it's 1,000 people. I love that opportunity. It doesn't bother me a bit. Yes, I get a little nervous like everybody does, but it doesn't last. I love that. And for 20-something years, if somebody emailed me, called me, ran into me somewhere out in the community and said, hey, Wendy, we got this thing going on, and we were thinking, we'd love to have you come speak. Would you be open to that? Well, shoot, of course, if they just find me and come ask me. But I had a real problem with going to them and saying, oh, by the way, did you know that I'm a speaker? Did you know that I've actually spoken to groups all across the country, including across the ocean, when I spoke in Ireland one time? Have I ever told you that I actually get a great response from the audience and usually get really pretty stellar reviews? And you know what? This conference that you're having, this meeting that you're having, this group that you're putting together, this event that you're hosting, I bet I could help you serve your audience better and would love to speak if there's a way I can do that. I had trouble with that, y'all. I couldn't go to people and offer to speak. I had to wait for them to come to me. I couldn't ask for the speaking opportunities. Well, it's dawned on me how I have carried that same idea over into my business. I had an aha just this morning that I'm actually working on a new service, a new program that I want to offer to those of you who are in an advanced practice, those of you who've been at this for a while, who could use some mutual support, who would love to be in the room with other ambitious, committed people who are serious about making a big splash in the world. I'm working on an offer specifically for those people. And quietly, a few people at a time. I've been trying to sort of reach out and tell a few people about it and invite a few people to join me in this new program. But I've had trouble with it. I've had trouble like saying, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. I really think you'd be great in it. Let me know. What do you think? Are you interested? It's the same idea. It's asking for the business. So I just wanted to share that because if you're having trouble doing this, I get you. Being willing to be seen, being willing to own your awesome, and being willing to tell people how you want to serve is important. And we all have a little trouble with that. But here's the cool thing. Here's what happens when you grow into that. When you go, oh my gosh, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to send out that email. I'm going to call that doctor's office. I'm going to offer to meet with that colleague that I don't even know. I'm going to show up at this networking event. When you learn how to do that, here's what happens. First of all, you learn how to talk about what you do. The words get more comfortable on your tongue. And when you get better at talking about what you do, the people you really want to help start to show up more. And you suddenly begin to realize that you're having an impact. Like you're making a difference because the people that you know you can serve are showing up. Because they get it, because they heard, because they understood your message. Not only are you having an impact on them, but on the people around them. Because you know how this works. You help one, you help another. You help one, you help their spouse, you help their family, you help their colleagues, you help their world, and you are having an impact on the world. And here's the cool thing. When you start putting yourself out there, and lo and behold, it actually works, your practice gets healthier, stronger, more fun, more effective, more profitable. You might even begin to feel kind of good about it, about putting yourself out there. So that's the first way that your practice is going to force you to grow. Because if you don't put yourself out there and you don't tell people what you're doing, no one's coming. So that's the first thing. The second way that your practice, my practice, that our practice challenges us and really pretty much forces us to grow is you have to be willing to be paid. And I will add, paid well. This comes under pillar number 5 from last week, where we talked about all manner of things related to payment. When I'm talking about being willing to be paid, I'm talking about as in allowing your clients to pay you and receiving that gift without guilt. You receive it and say thank you. Period. You don't receive it and say, I'm so sorry. Or, gosh, I know that was hard. I appreciate it. You just receive it and say thank you. It means raising your rates when you need to and when it's appropriate. It means setting boundaries around how and when you require payment. It means knowing that your clients are getting real value from their work with you, and that the payment is an equal exchange of that value. That you are not better than them, they are not better than you. You are two equal partners coming together in this work. You provide a service, you provide expertise, you provide wisdom, you provide heart, you provide so much to them, and they provide payment. And more. Maybe a testimonial, maybe a nice hug. You get lots of good stuff from them, all the feels, but you also get paid. That's what it means when you are willing to be paid. We are uncomfortable with this, though. We resist this part of our growth because we don't want anybody to think that we are just in this for the money. That's the last thing, and it just hurts to even consider that. Well, here's a news flash for you. We aren't. We actually are not in it for the money. Most of you started a private practice for 1,000 other reasons than making money. You started it for freedom. You started it for flexibility. You started it because you had a way that you wanted to help people and your job wouldn't let you. You started it because you wanted to be able to take time off to be with your kids after school. You started it because you wanted to be able to take an actual vacation every now and then. You started it because you had something creative you wanted to offer in the world that didn't fit into a traditional setting. You started it for lots of reasons, but most of the time, you didn't start it because you wanted, thought, or even expected to make any real money. I actually think that's a problem. That is a problem because you can't help your clients, y'all, by being broke. Your financial well-being is as important as your physical, emotional, spiritual well-being, just as it is for your clients. And you can help them a lot better when you are whole. You know I'm right about this. So there are lots of ways that I see this discomfort with being paid showing up in people's practices. And I was thinking about different folks I've worked with over the last couple of years and what some of the more common ways that I've seen this. One really subtle and sort of sneaky way that I see it creeping into someone's practice is when somebody tells me, "Oh, Wendy, I'm good with that. I like being paid. I'm fine with it. My rates are solid. My rates are healthy. I'm charging XYZ an hour, 125, 150, 200, 100, whatever it is. I've got a healthy rate that's appropriate for my industry and appropriate for my area and appropriate for my expertise." Okay, great. How many of your clients are paying that rate? 4. And how many people do you see a week? 16. What are the other ones paying? Well, I've got 2 that are on a sliding scale that I see for $25 a session. And then I've got 3 that are coming to me through a nonprofit that pays me $50. And then I've got 1 that I'm just charging $5 because I love her so much and life is really hard for her. And I've got this one that, she was paying my full rate, but when I raised my rates, I just didn't want to do that to her. So she's still paying what I used to charge 4 years ago. And so what ends up happening is you may have a very healthy practice with lots of clients, but they're paying you 5, 6, 7, 8 different payment rates because your rates are all over the map, no matter what you say they are. Any bells going off? Am I hearing any ding, 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 ding? Because this is really common and I see it a lot. Another way I've seen this is where people are so uncomfortable getting paid, so unwilling to hold clients accountable that they hurt themselves and their family to avoid having those tough conversations with their clients. A long time ago, when I first started coaching, I worked with a healing arts professional who, in this particular case, did a lot of work with folks who were struggling with addiction. I've done a lot with that audience myself. I have nothing but compassion for what those folks deal with. It is really hard. And they still need to pay their bills. They still need to honor their commitments. And in this particular case, this particular provider had one particular client who owed her something like $1,500, something like that. And it was someone she adored, someone she really felt sorry for, someone she had tremendous respect for, who just got far behind and more behind and more behind. And my client had that attitude with a lot of her people. That's the one I remember because that was the biggie. But you can imagine if she was like that with one, there's a pretty good chance she was like that with most. So what did she do? She had a full private practice. She took on a second job, making in a week, I've forgotten how many hours she was working, but she was bringing in just enough extra income to make ends meet for her family. And what she was bringing in extra income, she could have covered with a couple of extra clients paying her actual fee. The minute she reached the point where she was ready emotionally and as a business owner to hold that client accountable, which was an appropriate clinical thing to do, that was the beginning of a turnaround in her practice. But that's an example of someone who is uncomfortable being paid. And I promise you, there's no judgment here because I have done this with lots of zeros on the end. Lots of zeros on the end. It's really, really common. There are certain industries where those who practice are so used to paying bargain basement rates that even the concept of being paid a decent wage or a decent fee is unfathomable sometimes. I worked with a yoga teacher who, in her particular part of the country, people were used to going to yoga classes and paying $2 per class. Let's just say we changed that. Anyway, this is a big fear. This is a big area where your business is going to force you to grow. But here's the cool part here. As you learn, as you face the discomfort, as you grow into this, and there's so many ways you can do this, y'all. You can learn. This is just a skill like anything else. But as you grow into it, big stuff happens. Big stuff happens when you get clear that this is an equal exchange of value, that you do good work and they pay good money, and it's fair all the way around. It's beautiful. They're investing in their own health and well-being by paying you, investing in themselves for the results that they get by working with you. It's beautiful. And when you finally get that, your world is going to change. It's exciting when you begin to treat yourself with the same care and loving respect that you treat others. To put it simply, you get paid better. You get paid more often. Your clients feel better because they know it's fair too. And honestly, I bet you they get better faster because they're investing in themselves in such a more consistent way. Your business suddenly becomes more fun to run. Everybody's better. That's a win-win all the way around. When you go ahead and tolerate the discomfort of growth that happens when you learn how to be willing to be paid. And then the third way that we struggle, the third way that is so common, that I think this is actually much more subtle, honestly. The first two I've talked about, being willing to be seen and being willing to be paid. My clients know that. My coaching clients, my practice owners, my people say that to me. Wendy, I know I'm having trouble with this. That's easier to spot, easier to understand, easier to recognize and know that you need to do something. But this third one, this is tricky. This is so subtle. I think it's really, really easy to miss. And yet, I think this too might actually even be the biggest way that your practice is going to force you to grow. And that is, you must be willing to lead. You must be ready. And if you're not ready, get yourself ready to step into the role of CEO, to be the leader of your practice, to be the leader of your clients, to be the leader of yourself. Now, if you heard the 7 pillars last week, this is pillar number 7, which was about perspective, about mindset, about the way we talk to ourselves, and about the way we show up in our business. So this is in areas such as setting clear boundaries around how you work and when you work. Do you work on Sundays? Do you work on Saturdays? Do you work at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night? Do you want to? It's setting boundaries around what you do and what you don't do, how you get paid and how you're not comfortable, what you won't accept, around what you offer. It's as in designing your services, your programs, your practice in a way that you know your clients need, you know works for them. I had a friend actually in DC, a social worker in practice in DC, who her whole niche, her whole area was about working with folks in addiction. And she, in her clinical experience and her particular method, her way of working, she had come to realize that her people did so much better if she required them to see her twice a week for a full year. Now that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But it worked. It worked for her clients. It worked for her. So that's what she did. That's how you had to do it if you were going to see her. Well, let me tell you, when she got clear about that and she was able to lead that conversation, her ideal clients responded appropriately and beautifully. Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to be with someone who knows what to do, because if I knew what to do, I wouldn't be here. She became the leader of the treatment, leader of her practice, leader with her clients, and a leader in her life. It's not only making sure that your clients get what they need, but that making sure that you get what you need too. So it's all of that. Because, well, we don't do this. We struggle with this because we don't want to be pushy, because most of us come from a client-centered point of view, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we're taught in grad school. Our clients come first. Everything is about them. But remember, profit-centered, people forward. Good treatment is good business. Good business is good treatment. So we are uncomfortable in leading because that feels braggy too. That feels like we're taking over. That feels like we're being pushy. Let me tell you, your clients need you to be pushy. They need it. And your business does too. Because, well, all the reasons I've already said, I'm just going to say that. Therapeutically, it's better for them. Energetically, it's better for all of you. Strategically and financially, it's better for your business. This too is a win-win all the way around. And a lot of the times when people talk to me about where they're running into trouble in their practice, often I find it's a matter of leadership. But here's the cool thing. Here's the growth that comes out of that. You know what happens when you get solid about this? All of a sudden, your clients aren't testing those boundaries anymore because they know where you stand. When somebody no-shows, they don't even ask about paying. They just go ahead and send the money in. They call you and they say something like, I know you need to charge my card. It's perfectly fine. So sorry I had to cancel today. Can't wait to see you next week. Easy peasy, zero energy. You're not exhausted anymore because you're working the hours that you really want to work, that fit your energy levels. You feel good about things because nothing is anywhere near the level of effort it used to be. It's all just kind of matter of fact. This is how I work. That's what happens when you step into the role of leader, the role of CEO in your business. Everything goes better. I'll tell you an example of this, of how this can work for you. When I made the decision several years ago to finally make the break from insurance to a self-pay practice, there was a lot that went into that. It was not something I did quickly. It actually took me years to get there. But the day came when enough was enough. I drew a line in the sand and I said, I'm done. And that very day, I started telling my clients about the change that was going to be coming in my practice. Because I was comfortable by that point at being the leader in my practice, I knew what to do. I understood what to say. I understood the fears that my clients would have. I knew how to address those fears. I understood what this meant for my business. I knew how to address that too. I was very comfortable stepping into that leadership role. And as a result, what happened? My clients went, gulp, okay. And then it was fine. When it was all said and done, I lost one person out of a very full practice. And she was actually kind of ready to wrap anyway. It was fine. So I really, technically, didn't really lose anybody, honestly. That's what happens when you are comfortable with leadership and you're ready to do that. So I want you to be aware of how these three little triggers might show up in your practice. When are you afraid to step out and be seen? When are you uncomfortable with being paid? And when are you being called to lead? So let me give you some journal prompts to help you with this. You might want to write this down because I do not have a download for you today. I'm just going to say this, but you might want to write this down. So the first one is, let's deal with the first one. How does it feel to put yourself out there? And where are you holding back in terms of sharing your expertise? Where do you find yourself equivocating? Where do you find yourself staying quiet when you need to speak up? Where do you find yourself not raising your hand when someone needs what you do? How does it feel to put yourself out there, and where are you holding back? The second one I have for you is, how does it feel to be paid and paid well? How does it feel? Does it feel great? Does it feel awkward? Does it feel mushy? Does it feel something else? And if that hasn't happened yet, if you've never had that experience, why not? And then journal prompt number 3. How does it feel to set clear boundaries in your work? And where in your practice are you being called to lead? Write that down, rewind that, listen to that again, write it down, and give yourself some time to sit with those questions and notice what bubbles up. And then ask yourself, what does that mean? What does that tell you? Where are you being called to grow? Whether you're ready for it or not. There you go, my friends. That's what I got for you today. I hope this is helpful. Would love to hear what your takeaway from this is. Talk to me in the reviews. Send me a DM. Send me an email. I always love hearing from you. Go do something with this. Learn from it, and you will be all the better for it. And so will your practice. Have an awesome week, everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye now. Hey, guys, before you go, I just want to ask you, do you ever get overwhelmed by all there is to do in your private practice? Knowing that there are lots of things fighting for your attention, do you ever wonder what you should be working on, especially at this particular phase in the growth of your practice? Well, I got you covered. I have put together a little quiz, a tool that will help you take stock of your practice as a whole. Using my proprietary 7 pillars framework, you'll be guided through a series of questions that will help you identify where your practice is really pretty solid and where you might have a little work to do. It's called the IP 360 Scorecard, and you can finish it in less than 10 minutes, maybe 5. Not only that, but once you've completed it, you'll also get guidance on how to think about your scores in the context of which phase of development your particular practice is in. And the best part, it is completely free. You can actually get your copy right now over at my website. Go to wendypitsreeves.com/360. Go get your copy today and figure out where your practice is ready to grow next.